Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Liz Braden, District 9 City Councillor. I am the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Housing and Community Development. I am joined by my colleagues this morning, Councillor Henry Santana, at large, City Councillor at large, who is the lead sponsor of this docket. Written comments may be sent. This hearing is being recorded. It will be live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.wm@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councillors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you wish to sign up for public testimony here in the chamber, please sign in on the sheet near the door. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email Cora Montrond at cora.montrond@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 0398. Ordered for a hearing to explore strategies for developing mixed-income social housing to increase access and affordability for all Bostonians. This morning we have a panel from the administration, Kenzie Bach, Administrator of the Boston Housing Authority, and Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing and Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing. I will pass I've also had a letter of absence, an apology. Dear Councillor Braden and esteemed City Council colleagues, I hope this message finds you well. I regret to inform you that I will be unable to attend today's hearing to explore strategies for developing mixed-income social housing. I will review the recording and remain engaged in this very important topic. Thank you in advance for your understanding. Sincerely, Tanya Fernandez Anderson, City Councillor for District 7. I will now hand over to Councillor Santana. Councillor Santana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining me. Thank you, Councillor Braden, for joining me as a co-sponsor for this hearing. And thanks to Council President Lujan for joining me as well as a co-sponsor. And my thanks to my colleagues and our panelists for joining us here today. The order of this hearing was the subject of my inaugural council speech. I'd like to share some brief thoughts about why I focus on mixed-income social housing as a strategy I believe the Council should collectively explore to help address housing access and affordability for all Bostonians. And I'd like to share a couple things I hope we'll discuss in today's hearing. In its broadest meaning, social housing can include any housing that's under public or community control. I grew up in public housing here in Boston in Alice Taylor BHA apartments on Annunciation Road in Mission Hill. Growing up in public housing meant a lot to my family and me. It allowed us to find a neighborhood and a place that we feel comfortable in and that we all call home. The neighborhood really welcomed us as an immigrant family coming from the Dominican Republic with very limited resources. Public housing allowed us to really thrive here in the city of Boston. It gave us access to our Boston public schools, to our Boston public libraries, and to our parks. It allowed my parents to be able to find jobs while sending us to school. It was just a great experience for my family and me, and it's the reason why we've been able to call Boston home today. From my own experience, I absolutely believe in public housing as part of the solution, especially for our most vulnerable families and residents. I believe it's foundational to family success, and it's transformative for many families and residents that go through it. But it can create a trap. We need pathways for people to build wealth and improve their circumstances. But our current housing assistance programs often create challenging or impossible financial decisions for our residents. If your income increases enough to stop qualifying for a housing program, but not enough to afford Boston rents, then you're just stuck. To end these financial cliffs, we need new programs that provide a range of housing options for all income levels. There is a massive gap between low-income housing and market-rate housing. It's too far to make the leap, and the path between them is nearly impossible. And especially in Boston, where a history of urban renewal and redlining has split our neighborhoods apart by race and income, we need to bring our residents together across income levels. That's where mixed income housing comes in. And we have some wonderful and successful examples of mixed income housing here in Boston, like 10 city apartments in the Back Bay, and the redevelopment of some of our BHA public housing, like the Mary Ellen McCormick in South Boston, will step in this direction by incorporating new mixed income social housing. So will the Bunker Hill housing redevelopment in Charlestown. These two ideas, mixed income housing and social housing, can be even more powerful together. Social housing is a long-proven solution for creating high-quality and affordable housing in other countries. It has succeeded in fostering communities that aren't divided by income. City-owned and co-op units are around 17% of housing in the Helsinki and half of the Vienna housing market. And social housing provides homes for over 80% of residents in Singapore. But people have been unsure if it's feasible to approach here in the United States system that's historically been so dependent on private investors or federal subsidies. Our current public housing treats government funds as an expense. That's a problem. It's not financially sustainable. We end up creating units prone to not being taken care of, and public housing residents are stigmatized when living conditions are poor. To solve these problems takes money, but federal funds are limited. They can't fill the gap for everyone. Incorporating middle income and market rate units can be part of the solution. The income from those units make our public money go further. That income allows better homes with more community benefits. And that's why, as much as I admire the success of social housing in other countries, I'm particularly interested in focusing today's discussion on models in the U.S. that have shown this is possible here too. The local housing authority in Montgomery County, Maryland, successfully created hundreds of homes in mixed income, mixed-use community that opened last year. They did it without needing traditional federal tax credits or funding, and they found a way to do that that's financially sustainable. We're used to the government giving away our public funds and public land to private developers. We're used to our public assets being used once and lost. But this new approach to mixed income social housing is showing it's possible to use public funds to create public benefits instead of private profits. It's possible to treat public funds as an investment, not as an expense. I'm thrilled that Executive Director Paul Williams from the Center for Public Enterprise has joined us today. He's been working closely with Montgomery County and other housing authorities to implement these systems. And we're seeing these ideas gain interest across the United States. Along with Montgomery County, Atlanta, Seattle, Colorado, Hawaii, California, and Rhode Island are exploring or piloting mixed-income social housing programs. And here in Massachusetts, I want to share my appreciation that our state legislature is considering including a social housing pilot fund in the Affordable Homes Act. I'm looking forward to discussing today how we might approach adding social housing to our toolbox here in Boston. I want to thank Chief Sheila Dillon and BHA Administrator Kenzie Bach again for joining us today. My hope is that we can discuss some of the existing approaches we use to address housing access and affordability in Boston, what their benefits and shortcomings are, and see where mixed income social housing could be an additional tool to help us fill some of the gaps. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Santana. As the chair of the Housing Committee, I can't say how excited I am to host this, chair this meeting this morning. I think mixed income social housing is something we need to explore and invest in. Sadly, the federal government hasn't made any significant investment in social housing since the 1980s, so we have a lot of catching up to do. And in this moment where we're trying to address the legacy of redlining and segregated housing policies from the past, I think, and trying to make our Boston a very inclusive, equitable and sustainable community for everyone, I think social housing is a very important part of that discussion. So I'm really pleased to welcome former Councillor Kenzie Bach, and now Administrator of the Boston Housing Authority, and Chief Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing and Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing in the City of Boston. I also like to acknowledge that my colleague, Councillor Ben Webber from District 6 is here, and Councillor Erin Murphy, City Councillor at Large, have joined us. So I'll hand it over to the panel. Who wants to start this morning?
I would like to. Thank you. For the record, my name is Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing for the City of Boston, and as you mentioned, Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing. And I do want to thank Chairperson Braden and City Councillor Henry Santana for bringing this this topic forward for discussion and review. I am extremely supportive of the idea and look forward to working with the City Council, Administrator Bach, and the BHA team, and some of the housing advocates that are here today to really move this concept forward in a big and meaningful way. The City of Boston, as you are all very well aware, have been working hard to increase the supply of income-restricted housing throughout the city. Over the past 2 years, with the support of the City Council, we've increased resources for affordable housing, most notably making well over $200 million available for ARPA. We completed a land audit to identify surplus properties where we could build significant amounts of mixed income developments and units. We increased the obligation from private developers of making them provide more income-restricted housing in their developments. And in addition, we have provided funding for nonprofits, for-profits, and land trusts so they can acquire portfolios and take them out of the speculative market. So all of that work is great, it's ongoing, and it's yielding good results. But as a city, we should always be looking for new tools, new ways of doing business to address our housing needs. So therefore, I think we really should explore how to increase our publicly owned housing by developing social housing. And there's a few particular reasons I think that we should do this. Over the years, for all the right reasons, the number of units in the BHA portfolio has decreased. It's been a strategy to get very, very obsolete public housing renovated using tools that are available in the private market. But their portfolio has been reduced even when the wait list for public housing is growing, daily. The BHA also has the opportunity to use a lot of its property right now to increase density. A lot of the land surrounding some of our lower density public housing developments, it could be increased, and we could see more mixed income communities take root there. And of course, I'm stating the obvious, the need for additional housing, especially income-restricted housing, continues to grow. Right now, the City of Boston has 66,000 renters that are housing cost burdened. So for all of those reasons, I just can't be more supportive of looking at this as a model. It builds strong communities, it puts more units back into the BHA portfolio, and it really will make our city so much stronger. So with that, I am learning too. I want to hand it over to our expert, Administrator Bach, so she can walk through some of her thinking on this. But I'm here to learn and certainly here to work with the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Dillon, and thank you, Chair Braden and Councillor Santana, Councillor Weber, Councillor Murphy. Although I left, it is a pleasure to me always to be back in this chamber and an honor, and especially excited to talk about this topic, and want to start by congratulating Councillor Santana on his maiden speech and on actually holding a hearing on his maiden speech, which is not always done by everyone. So no, exactly, but I think it should always be lauded when it actually happens. So congratulations. And really, there can't be, I think, a more urgent topic than this. So really glad that we're all here together today. The mayor and our administration really believes in housing as a human right, housing as a public good. And if we want to make those things more than slogans, right, we have to look at mechanisms like this for really putting them into practice. And I think a ton of the things that Sheila just listed that the Mayor's Office of Housing does is about that, and a lot of the things that we're doing right now at BHA are about that, but we always have to be asking ourselves, how could we do more? The first thing I want to say is that public housing is social housing. It is a form of social housing, right? It was built to say basically on the premise that like everybody deserves a safe, decent, affordable place to live. And the reality is that when public housing was first built, it really did house our middle and lower income residents. And it has come to serve only our most low income residents, but that is because we didn't build enough, right? So because in the city we have a commitment to preventing homelessness and we have a homeless priority at the BHA, and we don't want people on the street, a challenge that we are grappling with both in the city and statewide right now. Because of that, we prioritize making sure that the lowest income, the most vulnerable folks get into public housing, and we're super proud of that. I feel like it's worth saying, because in Boston sometimes we don't know that anything happens outside of the city of Boston, but it's worth saying that with the average income of our residents in BHA being 17% of area median income, so that's 1.7, that's one of the lowest, if not the lowest in the country of a large public housing authority, and it's because of our commitment to housing people out of homelessness. So, I think that's a really important thing that we do. The reality is that public housing eligibility is technically up to 80% of area median income. So again, the program is written to also be a middle income housing program, but there is just such a shortage, right? So we've got 10,000 units that the BHA is directly owning and managing, further units that were converted, often, as Sheila said, with loss of total units, where we pass subsidy through, and then another 17,000 units that we provide vouchers for. But the thing to just recall is that with 42,000 folks on the wait list, 10,000 units we've controlled directly, some more, right? We can't take care of everybody, and it's not able to serve like all income levels in the same way. We do serve higher income levels, particularly in the senior portfolio on average, because we have a lot of seniors who are on a fixed income who are kind of in that lower middle band, but it's still totally impossible to survive in Boston. And so, I think that because of that, one of our social housing commitments is the one that the mayor announced in January, which is for the Boston Housing Authority over the next decade to build all 3,000 additional fair cloth units that we're entitled to under federal law. So that's that Boston has a total cap, the number of public housing units that we can administer, but the federal government guarantees subsidy for every one of them. And so right now that number, but we when we demolished units, when we were dealing with the obsolete housing, we lost units. So in total, over the decades, Boston has lost 2,964 compared to where we were in 1999. So that's that 3,000. So we want to build those back. Now, building new public housing again is actually something that the BHA has done before. It used to be a core part of our business. So in the 1930s, we built 1,000 units. In the 1940s, we built 4,500. In the 1950s, 5,500. Then it was, I think, 1,600 in the 60s, and then 2,200 in the 70s, and then we built 300 units in the early 1980s. And for the last 40 years, we haven't built any net new public housing units. We've only redeveloped existing ones, and as I said, often at a unit loss. So that's 40 years of not being in this business, but I like to remind folks that that's still 50 years where we were. So in fact, it's been a majority of our time that we did this, and so we want to be doing this again. But when we think about doing it again, we do think about what would be the best 21st century housing for our residents. And it really is the opportunity to live in mixed income communities. One of the exciting things about these fair cloth units is that they could be used in a variety of ways. We can mix them in to, we could connect them to IDP. We could build new buildings on site that have different tranches of income that are above public housing to combine with the public housing. So we can still build 100% public housing, affordable buildings. We often see with supportive housing, with senior housing, that there are certain populations where, because there's a need for concentrated services, it does make sense to do 100% affordable housing, right? So we know there's always still going to be 100% affordable housing that we're wanting to develop. But we think that the opportunity to do mixed income communities in Boston is really important. We have, as Councillor Santana alluded to, a couple of big redevelopment projects that are happening right now that kind of include part of this promise. So the Charlestown and Mary Ellen McCormick projects are a partnership with private partners. It's wind development at Mary Ellen McCormick and Leggett McCall and Corcoran at Charlestown, Bunker Hill. And both of those are cases where we're adding we're replacing the 1,100 at Charlestown, 1,000 at Mary Ellen, public housing units 1 for 1, and then we're adding kind of twice again, it's slightly different at each site, but twice again as much density of market housing. We're really excited about those partnerships. We have great partners there, and I think one of the things that we've learned along the way compared to some of the public-private partnerships in the past is that we have a public ownership stake in those deals that continues, not just in terms of control in a 99-year ground lease, but actually some public income value share that comes through the ground leases in those projects, so that there will be an opportunity for the public to have some resources return from the profit of the market income side. But those are still not social housing, because the buildings themselves, as we complete those deals the way that they were crafted 10 years ago, those buildings will be privately owned, right? And so we'll pass public subsidy through, we'll own the land. Like I said, it's not your grandfather's ground lease. There is a significant public financial interest in those ground leases, but it isn't public ownership. And I think that what the folks in Montgomery County and other places have really pointed out to all of us is that there is a real benefit to ongoing majority public control of housing developments that are mixed income, and it's really twofold. One has to do with policy. So, for instance, Montgomery County voluntarily, the buildings that it owns, and I'm not going to explain the whole mechanism because I know Paul Williams is on the call and he's great at that, so I will leave the details of the Montgomery mechanism to Paul when he presents, but basically the gist of it is that they replace the equity stake in these housing developments, and so they end up as the majority owner of them, even though they're majority market mixed income developments. And one thing is that those buildings, even though they have market units, they voluntarily follow the they don't have rent control in Montgomery County, but they have a suggested rent guideline. So they basically say, look, even our market people, we're only going to raise the rent this much on them year on year, right? Which is just a more humane way to run a community, even for people who are paying market rent, because we want stability at all income levels. The other thing is that not chasing the same profits as the private side better enables you to create that middle income tranche that I think we're all really missing in the city. So even our deals, right, the Mary Ellen McCormick and the Charlestown ones currently don't have a middle income tranche, and that's something that both we and the partners have really wanted to see. Like, we've been really eager to have that, but it's so expensive to create, and this is very counterintuitive, but because of the federal subsidy, it is way more financeable for me to create a new public housing unit because of how much the federal government will back it with than it is to create a new middle income unit, because it falls into this hole where it's neither commanding the market rents nor is it receiving that federal guaranteed subsidy. And so ironically, and this often confuses people, it's more expensive to create that unit in terms of the gap that you have to fill. And so, the issue, that's why you don't see those middle income units getting created. And I think that a really interesting thing that you can do potentially with the additional value that you can capture by not needing the same profitability if it's public money providing the equity stake is you can do these programmatic things like some humanity in your rental tenancy policies, even for the market folks, and then including a middle income tranche. The other core reason why social housing that has a majority public financial stake makes sense is because it actually creates a public engine for housing production, which we have control of and which can continue to reproduce itself. What I mean by that is this: right now in the city, and certainly this is true in high-cost cities across the country, we are trapped in a conversation about how to stimulate market housing production, right? And it's a really important conversation, and there's lots of discussions about, what can you streamline, whether it's processes like, zoning your permitting? How do you have tax abatements, right? There's all kinds of conversation about that. But all of those things are just about changing the environment to try to make it a bit more favorable, and then waiting for private capital to come and to develop housing. And the challenge that we're all facing is that because of the interest rate situation in the country, money is staying on the sidelines. And money's staying on the sidelines because it's like you can make so much off of treasury bonds that to take the risk inherent in real estate development, you'd have to be making a ton, right? So when you have, and then people just look at these deals and they say, well, I can't make 25% profit. And it's easy to be like, oh, well, you can make 10% profit. That's a good profit. It's like, well, not for the amount of work and risk that real estate takes. And so that's the situation that we're in, is that we're in this bizarre thing where it's not that housing production isn't profitable. It's that housing production isn't profitable enough for the benchmark of these real estate investment trusts that increasingly provide the equity stake in the market housing development. And so we're stuck in this bind where the capital markets can just stay on the sidelines, and we can like do these things around the edges to try to make the atmosphere more or less congenial. But fundamentally, those things aren't moving the needle. I think one of the actual policy frustrations we've had recently is that people have talked about a lot of little things around the edges. You know, oh, well, is having higher energy standards for these buildings discouraging them from being built? Well, if you talk to people, and I have, because we're building, right? We have basically market buildings that we're talking about at Charlestown and Mary Ellen. And you say, hey, what's the delta on how much this is costing me? And the reality is it's been a very small number of basis points compared to the hundreds of basis points that market housing deals are underwater right now because of the interest rate spreads. So I just want to say, like, the interest rate situation is the reason that we're not seeing the production of new private housing right now. Now, the thing is, there are things that we just allow to be governed by a boom-bust cycle, right? Like, you know, whether somebody wants to offer, like, suddenly all these saunas have popped up, right? That, like, somebody's decided there's a market for saunas for people to visit and jump in pools around. That's great, that's awesome. Nothing goes that wrong if the sauna cycle then takes a bust, right? But housing is a human right. It's a public good. It's a thing that people need. And so to have this critical need for our folks be dependent on this boom-bust cycle that we can't control, and that we can just kind of try to put some incentives on the table to encourage, is what we're seeing in Boston. Is it's a totally like unsustainable and unacceptable reality. And that's really why we want to take a hard look at social housing, because the benefit is that the public side puts the equity in, develops the housing, and then, because it is profitable, just not at the rates that the capital markets want, gets its money back, right? And when you get your money back, you can then put it into the next housing production deal. So it's not about making money for the city or the state or whatever the public entity is, but it is about a revolving fund, which then allows you to not depend on an engine that, for instance, right now is just stalling out. So I think that to me, there's nothing more discouraging than having a conversation about the private market engine and asking, what do you think will get it going again if rates don't come down? And having folks in the industry say, well, if rents go high enough, like, that'll incent us to come back in again, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, so when rents are at $5,000 a month, you'll produce a little bit of housing. And then when they're down at $4,500 a month, the engine will stop again. Like, that's not an acceptable reality for the city of Boston. And so I think that that's really, you know, recognizing that it would be good to get housing out of a boom-bust cycle, both for humane, like, reasons that people need housing to live and thrive, and also for, like, fundamental, even economic development reasons, that housing is also the basis on which people do everything else that makes our city a flourishing place to be. We really have to take a hard look at what Montgomery and others are doing. So, you know, Sheila mentioned at the start, BHA does have, you know, we have land. We also have these, I think what's critical for us is that because we have these 3,000 Faircloth units, we know that we don't have to talk about mixed income housing production that wouldn't have a really substantial low income tranche, because we know we have the resources to put the low income tranche into anything that we do. So we feel really good about that from a kind of overall social inclusion perspective. And so, you know, It's a different model. I know you're going to have Paul talk about it. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but he's, like I said, really the expert. But I will just say that we have, Boston Housing Authority and some of Sheila's staff, we went down and visited Montgomery in November. We've been in conversation with the folks who are working on this down there, but also in Atlanta, in New York, in Rhode Island, some folks looking at it out in California, Chicago. So, there's really an emerging community of practice around this, and it's the perfect time to have a conversation.
Thank you, Kenzie. Just to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councillor Louis Jean, Council President Louis Jean, City Councillor at Large, and Councillor Mejia, who's also City Councillor at Large. So Paul, is it Paul?
Yes.
I'd also now like to welcome Paul Williams, who's the founder and executive director of the Centre for Public Enterprise, New York, virtual testimony. So Paul, welcome, and thank you for participating this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me, councillors. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this work. So my name is Paul Williams. I'm the executive director at the Center for Public Enterprise. We're a small nonprofit think tank, and we also provide kind of pro bono technical assistance to housing authorities, state housing finance agencies, and other public agencies that work in the housing sector around the country. And one of the tools that we work most closely with is this kind of emerging class of mixed income public development or social housing models that housing authorities and housing finance agencies are increasingly moving toward as a innovative way to increase housing production and increase public and social ownership of newly constructed housing. So I'll start with the kind of story of how Montgomery County's Housing Production Fund, which is their tool, how it came about. Because I think the story of how it came about reveals a lot about what the benefits are. So about 8 years ago, Montgomery County's Housing Authority, they're called the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County, they were building a very conventional mixed income project, something that you see often done with bond volume cap. And, I know mass housing finances plenty of deals that look like this, called an 80-20 deal, where there's a private partner that has the majority stake, and that it's 80% market rate and 20% affordable at, 50% AMI. And these are just, these are deals that private developers, housing authorities, all sorts of people do. They're less common than they used to be in the 90s and early 2000s, but they still happen. So anyway, this project was getting built. There was a private equity partner who invested in the project. It was a large, it was several hundred units, which meant there were, 100, it was like 300 units, and so there were 100 affordable units. And they built that project, it got completed, and then they, as housing developers do, they refinanced the project at completion once the project had been leased up and filled with residents. And the value of the building had appreciated by something like 80% in the period between beginning of construction and completion. So they realized there was a lot of realized growth in that short period of time. Because of the agreement they had with the private equity partner who provided all of the gap finance, the private equity partner walked away with the cake, meaning they walked away with the money. There's still a split ownership situation and so on, but they had to split all of those growth earnings with this private partner. And really what happened is they thought to themselves, well, I don't like that. I am responsible for everything about this project. I brought the land, I brought the senior debt, I designed it, I paid the architects and engineers. These people just came in at the last minute, provided equity, and now are just like walking away with everything. So their question was, how can I put myself in a position where that doesn't happen? How can I put myself in a position where, as a public housing authority and housing finance agency, I'm able to not only have the kind of control over the development like I did here, but also not have the need to rely on these additional investors who can, who are going to have a claim on any returns that any building generates. And so what they did is they came up with this idea for a housing production fund. And what it is a fund that sits at the housing authority, and they use it to make short-term loans, very short-term loans, like 3, 4, 5 years, into mixed income projects that they're building. And they're only loaning in for the construction period of the project. And they're loaning in at a very small amount of the total construction cost too. So, for example, say you have a $100 million project. You can go get a senior loan, a mortgage, for $50, $60, $70 million. The gap finance is what is the piece that you need to fill. So, in a conventional affordable project, you fill that gap with low-income housing tax credits. In a conventional private development, you'll fill that gap with private equity and maybe some subordinate debt. And what they came up with is, in my mixed income public developments, I'll fill that gap with a short-term construction loan from my revolving fund. So they completely pulled out the private equity investment that's needed for these projects. So then they go build the project with this kind of new, very simple capital stack. And then at completion, they pull the revolving loan fund investment out of the deal and put it back in the bucket. So that money comes back in 3, 4, 5 years later, and it's ready to go out into another deal, as soon as the next day. And that's another thing that's really powerful about this. It's really like a kind of small internal investment fund that you can just keep turning over and over and over. And as long as it generates, a few % return to stay above inflation, that fund will exist in perpetuity. You just have a kind of permanent investment fund, as long as you use it in this kind of way. And so what that allows them to do is generate a pretty significant amount of affordability in these buildings because they've lowered capital costs so much. And they are getting they're getting good levels of affordability without using any low-income housing tax credits, any bond volume cap, any housing choice vouchers, project-based vouchers, any federal subsidy at all. And which is not to say that the federal subsidies are bad. Federal subsidies are obviously very good, but the issue that public housing authorities and housing finance agencies face in general is that every one of them uses every dollar that they get from the federal government every year. Nobody doesn't use that money. Every one of these agencies uses every dollar that they get, and it's still not enough. And so Montgomery County's perspective is any tool that I can create to generate additional affordable unit production on top of what the federal government pays for is a net win-win-win for everybody. So why don't I just leave it there? That's just, we lay out the general framework like that, and then I don't know if it'd be better to answer questions if that's more what you're looking for. But what I'll say is there's a lot of interest and uptake from other jurisdictions in the country who have seen the benefit of this model. Folks are kind of folding this kind of program into housing authorities and into housing finance agencies and also into just kind of other municipal agencies. So it's really exciting to hear that this is something that Boston is interested in exploring. And I would love to, share what I know about how the model works and help you all think through whether it's something that could work for Boston.
Thank you, Paul. I think we'll open it up for questions, and Councillor Santana. Also, I didn't ask my colleagues if they had any opening statements. Do you want to say a few words? You okay? Just go straight to questions.
Yeah.
Very good. Councillor Santana, did you have some questions for the panel, and then we'll open it up to everyone else?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Administrator Brock and Chief Dillon and Executive Director Williams. I have a few questions. I'm going to try to direct them at where I think they're going to go, but feel free to jump in if you have anything to add. I'll start with you, Director Williams. A lot of housing units get permitted, but don't usually actually move forward to construction because of financing challenges. We heard that too from Administrator Brock and Chief Dillon in their opening statements. The first Montgomery County project managed to take a stall project like that and not only get the project built, but actually also increase the number of affordable units from something like 10% in the original plan to around 33% of affordable units. What made it possible to move forward on a stalled project while also creating more affordable housing?
Yeah, great question. And, I will say there's a Boston Globe article that I read, 5 months ago, that mentioned there are something like 20,000+ apartment units in Boston that are permitted but have not yet started construction. So I know this is an issue that is the case in Boston. And obviously, a lot of places there are the kind of permitting and zoning issues that prevent some units from being started. But even for units that pass that threshold, that get through zoning and permitting, financing then becomes the next issue, right? If you're permitted but you can't get financed, that's still not a housing unit. So the first project that Montgomery County built with this fund, there was a 270 unit project that had been proposed just on 2 blocks from a metro station. It had done all of the architecture, engineering, site planning. It was entitled. They were ready to draw permits, but they couldn't get a private equity investor to fill that financing gap. And so they were just sitting there on a pile of dirt. And so Montgomery County's Housing Authority had, several months prior, created their new housing production fund. And so they essentially called up that developer, because they heard about the project, and said, look, I have this new housing production fund. This looks like an interesting deal. Here would be the terms if I buy this deal out from you, right? And they said, here's the affordability, what it's going to be. I'm going to have the majority ownership stake. This is going to be my building. You're essentially going to be a kind of turnkey developer for me, right? I'm going to hire you to build it. You can go, do the construction work, but this is going to be my building. And here's what I bring to the table. I have this housing production fund, this capital that is much, much lower cost than anything you're going to get from a private equity investor, right? I'll make this construction bridge loan at 5% interest instead of, 15-18% internal rate of return. And the private developer was like, oh my goodness, yes, I would love that, right? Because they're just sitting there on a pile of dirt with nobody who wants to buy it. And the project got built, and there's now all this affordability, and there's you asked how were they able to get it built and generate affordability. Well, they took what would have been the most expensive piece of capital, the highest rate of return required in a deal, pulled it out, and replaced it with a public financing tool that they had created. And so when you do that, you significantly reduce the cost of capital. And then on top of that, there's a metric that's used in all housing production and affordable housing production called the debt coverage ratio, or debt service coverage ratio. And that's basically just a measure of how much, every year you have an annual mortgage payment, your monthly mortgage payment, an annual mortgage payment on your building, and debt service coverage ratio is what percent of your mortgage payments is covered by your income, right? And so in a very conventional, low-income housing tax credit project, it might be 1.1, 1.15, so 110, 115%. So you don't have all that much room over your mortgage costs. You're not making that much money on it, right? You're barely making enough to even put into your rainy day fund that you need for a building. But in a conventional private deal, you might have debt service coverage ratios that are above 200%, right? You're making double what you're paying on your mortgage. You're raking it in. And so what Montgomery County really does, and the way to think about how they get affordability in these projects, is take a private deal that would have been 200, 2.0 debt coverage ratio. And then, you just look at all the units and you say, okay, these are all market, these are all market. And they just start plugging in units as affordable. And every time you plug in an affordable unit, your debt coverage ratio comes down a little bit, right? Because you're taking a little bit of a loss on your affordable units. And they just keep plugging affordable units in until the debt coverage ratio comes down to a healthy, sustainable level. And for them, that's like 1.25, 1.3. And really what it allows you to, on any individual project, identify the maximum affordability that you can get in that project that still allows you to pay your mortgage. And this is, I think, something that cities have come up with when doing inclusionary zoning programs, is trying to figure out what is the maximum amount of affordability that I can get on a project. Where should I put the bar, right? Is it 15%, 20%, 25%? How much affordability can I get in these deals? An issue obviously is that, well, the amount that will work on any given project depends on changes from day to day with interest rates and land costs and all of these things, but it's not a static thing. It's like a very fluid thing. And with a program like this, you are a market actor, and you can just fluidly identify the highest amount of affordability that still allows you to cover your costs on every project that you enter, right? So it's like you can kind of think of that as like an active participant inclusionary zoning program. You just go in, you just enter the deals yourself, and you get the affordability yourself. And so that's one kind of project pipeline, right? Is they look for projects in their area that could that are stalled and that they could essentially take over, right? The other project pipeline is they're a public housing authority. They own land. They do RFP development just like anybody else, right? They have a partnership with the Washington Metro Transit Authority, WMATA, that they're doing right now. That's just going to be a very conventional public deal. That's not like a buying a private project. So just to say, you can do both of those things.
Can Councillor Weber ask the question? He's got kids coming in.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Santana, I'll come back to you. I know you're the lead sponsor. Our colleague, Councillor Webber, has to leave, so he had a question. Would you like to ask Councillor Webber?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Braden, and thank you, Councillor Santana, for bringing this. This is an incredible, way to sort of deal with a crisis here in our city, and I support it. And I think, as you alluded to, that I think this dovetails with my maiden speech, which is, providing counsel for people in eviction proceedings. And this is a very innovative thing, and I fully support it. My questions are pretty much for Administrator Bach and Chief Dillon. So can we do this right now, or are there things that need to change with the city? And if we can do it right now, what are the obstacles that we have, other than, and we have some great listeners now. So for folks at home, we have a large number of young kids. Where are we from?
Neighbourhood House Charter School.
Oh, Neighbourhood, okay.
And Matahunt School. Welcome.
Great.
These are active, civically engaged schools.
Well, we're talking about building housing for people here in the city. So I don't know, Administrator, Chief, what are the hurdles that we need to think about here as we go forward?
Yeah, so I think that, so there's nothing regulatory that prevents us from doing what Montgomery has done. And so I think that's great, because it means that we can do it. The biggest hurdle, I think there's two big hurdles. One is that the way that this model works is that because you're replacing the equity stake that the private side would have, you need a bunch of money up front, right? And you can't think of that money in our conventional way where we think, we're spending this much per unit on gap filling, because we're not actually spending it. Like the rest of our money for housing we spend, right? We spend a certain amount per unit. It's actually a substantial amount for deeply affordable units. And that's what Sheila's shop just spends a lot of time doing, is giving that money away in exchange for creating new affordable units, right? This model is one in which we invest a stake and then we have the ownership and we get value back, but it means that the amount that you're putting in up front is more than we're used to, right? And so I think one thing is just having a chunk of money. So in Montgomery County, what Paul talked about, the county appropriated $50 million to create this revolving fund. And they've had so much success with it that they have now doubled that to it's an $100 million revolving fund. So that's a really significant amount of money. But what they're seeing is that they're able to just keep revolving it and generating more and more housing production. And so it's this incredible engine for the county. But I think that's the first thing, is that some public entity, either the city or the state or whatever, has to decide, hey, we're going to actually take the leap and put that money up front and do a first deal, right? And I think that's one big thing, is just appropriation. I think the other thing is that this is a new category, and so it's neither sort of traditional public, the investment that the CFO's office does, which is to just conserve the public dollar, right? Invested pretty conservatively to make sure we're going to have enough money to cover all of our public expenses, or spending, which is what we do with the city budget every year. This is an in-between space of social investment by the public entity. And that means that you have to have good, clear guardrails about, okay, so you're accepting a lower return, but what's the limit on that? And what are the rules going to be around the nature of this investment? Like Montgomery says, we're only going to do this in buildings we end up owning a majority stake of. And we expect to get this much back, and that kind of thing. So I think those are really the two things, are needing to set up clear constraints on the program so that the public knows that when you put up that initial stake, that it's really going to get a lot of bang for its buck.
The only thing I would add, if I may, is that the model that was described relies on less actual public subsidy, but there is a significant market rate component in these projects. Depending on all of them could be structured a little bit differently. So I think our affordable housing communities and our government officials and all of us would have to get comfortable with making significant private or public investment in very mixed income projects where all the units aren't going to be deeply affordable. I'm very supportive of this because we need supply and we need mixed income communities, and I think it's just another tool. It's not subtracting from our other construction, but I think we would have to get comfortable with this concept.
Okay, thank you very much, and I recommend to everyone here to use a lot of analogies to Iron Man. I don't know, what kids are into Roblox. Hope to connect with our audience today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Weber. And we've been joined by Councillor Coletta from District 1 and Councillor Durkin and Councillor Fitzgerald. I'm going to go back to the lead sponsor, Councillor Santana.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to our visitors. So glad to be joined by so many of our youth. I see people waving. Yeah, thank you. Chief Dillon and Administrator Bach, I've been really excited to see the administration innovating to combine housing and public facilities into some of the recent RFPs for our city-owned land, like the creation of new libraries and housing in Chinatown and the West End, and the redevelopment of BHA facilities are increasingly incorporating public benefits too. One of the things that caught my attention about what HOC is doing is that they're incorporating public facilities like community centers, libraries, and even pools into their mixed income social housing programs. Are there ways a program like this might enable us to further how much we can invest to incorporate public community facilities into housing developments here in Boston?
Sure. So I'll start and certainly hand it over to Administrator Bach, but I can't think of a reason sitting here why we couldn't take public land, BHA surplus land, or public assets and use this financial development model on those sites. If I'm understanding the question clearly, there's nothing that would stop us from doing that. I think when we do use public land and public sites, we probably want to look at the range of affordability and maybe there's ways we could model, slightly higher than 20 or 30%, but I think there's nothing that's stopping us from doing that.
Yeah, and I think what I would say is, I actually think that, so one of the benefits, and Paul described this, right, because when you're no longer trying to meet the private return needs of the private equity side, you have some money in the deals, right, when you're accepting a lower return. And one of the things that you can do with that money is create increased affordability or a higher ratio, or like I mentioned before, adding middle income units to the mix. Another thing you can do with that value is you can create public amenities, right? Or nice shared amenities with that value because you've got it in the deal. I think the thing that you have to be eyes wide open about, and this relates to what I was just saying about parameters, is if the public replaced the private equity stake but didn't make any, didn't have any amenities or additional things, right, that they added to the thing, the public revolving fund would make more money back, right? So the more that you do the nice amenities, the less value that's going to return in terms of net. So which is a totally fair public trade-off to make, but you just have to be clear, I won't get the private equity returns if I also do all these things to, add amenities and add greater affordability and whatever to the project. But I think as long as you're clear about what those trade-offs are, there's a really good opportunity to just get more public value. And I think we should say, from my perspective, it's get more public value in housing production where we are already putting so much public value in. When we develop on public land, and then also when we put public subsidies, both the vouchers that my agency provides to a lot of projects around the city, including a lot of private projects, and the soft debt that Sheila's shop provides, we put a ton of public money into housing production right now. And so, the idea is how do you put that money in, but in a way that actually gets you a public return as well.
Great.
I think we'll move on to the next one. Thank you. Councillor Russi-Louisiane, you're next up. You're another lead co-sponsor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Braden, and I want to thank you, Councillor Santana, for caring so much about this issue and for allowing me to be a co-sponsor. I want to thank Administrator Bach, Chief Dillon, all our experts for being here to give testimony. Also want to give another shout out to the Neighborhood House Charter School from Dorchester and the Mattahunt from Mattapan that are in the house. Thank you for being with us here in your house, which is City Hall. One of the things when I gave my meeting that I talked about was about social bonds for housing, and for me, for housing and for schools, and for me, that's an area where I think there could be a lot of synergy between affordable housing bonds and using our bonds and our ability to issue debt as a city to create more affordable housing. And this is one area when we're talking about social housing. Shout out to Michael Kane, who, when the first time that we talked on the phone, he's like, "Have you thought about social housing?" When I was, a youthful city councilor. That we should be using, like leaning into what our strengths are, our AAA bond rating. When we look at our fiscal strength, to think about how we're leaning into that to make, either through our general obligation bonds or through labeling them affordable housing bonds and putting those on the market. How can that fit into social housing? And I'm going to turn this question to Administrator Bach, who was, when she was on this council, was my, I think, co-sponsor on my hearing on using our bond rating to invest more in housing and in schools, and in basically what we're allowed to use bonds for, which is public goods. So.
Yes, no, I was delighted to be your sponsor and happy to field that question. In fact, the City of Boston in, I think it was fall 2020, issued its first set of social bonds, which were, it was a tranche of city bonds, general obligation bonds, that were specifically targeted at the housing and green infrastructure related investments of the city. So they were green and social bonds. They also made them available at the time to private investors. And I was so excited to try to buy like one small share of a bond. And then thankfully, before I did this, I expressed my enthusiasm, and someone from the Treasury office informed me that city councilors are not allowed to buy the debt of the city of Boston. So I avoided, getting in trouble, and I just am passing that information along to all of you in case, like me, you are so tempted to support our social bonds that you wanted to try to get one. Basically, I think there's huge opportunity here, and I should say that in some ways, the whole premise of this is built on the bonding capacity of the city. And what I mean by that is, like, the whole reason why the public side can afford to invest money in housing and take a return that is less than what the private side can return is because cheaper money is available to it because of the low interest rates that we can get on the bond market with our AAA bond rating, right? So it's like, that's what undergirds our ability to be the cheaper finance for these projects. So it's totally related. I think that the one thing that has changed since you and I had that hearing is that the Wu administration's being more and more aggressive about just like really trying to use right up to that 7% policy limit. And obviously you all will have the budget in coming weeks. So that's not my role here, but I think that, that's the only thing now is that we've got so many projects we're trying to do all at the same time on that same bond rating. But I think the fundamental point still holds, which is that this is a way of thinking about how that public financing can support this like core public good. And it's treating housing as a public good, right? Yeah. So like 6 years ago, there was no support for the BHA. There was no housing section of the capital plan. Like the Mayor's Office of Housing was supported through linkage and through an operating budget, but there was no concept of housing being a category of the capital plan. Fortunately, since 2019, that has changed. Now there's like $200 million in the $3 billion capital plan last year that's specifically housing focused. So that's been a really big sea change for the city of Boston. I think it's something we have to double down on and continue.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay. Councillor Mejia, did you have a... thank you.
But I think the bigger...
I'm going to do like a one question round, and then we'll come back round again just so that everybody gets a chance to speak. And we've been joined by Councillor Ed Flynn from District 2.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to my colleagues for bringing this forward. It's good to see you, former Councilor Bach. It's weird to see you on the other side of things. Hello, Chief.
Hi.
And before I even start with my questions, I just want to thank you, Chief Dillon. I mean, your department is always available to my team. And there has not been one housing crisis that you all have not stepped up for to support us. So I just want to say thank you, because you get a lot of criticism in a lot of different ways, but I just want to start off with gratitude to let you know how much we appreciate you. And Director Danielle, I mean, like, seriously, you guys are always there, so thank you. Thank you. All right, so I just have a quick question, since I can only get one in. I'm just curious.
There will be another round, so.
For just to help for the folks who are like tuning in, and I'm not sure who here or in the Zoom might be able to answer this question. There's been some criticism around social mixed use, and some folks are saying that, you know, it's another form of like neoliberalism, right? I'm not sure if you guys have heard that criticism, but they're saying that it's, you know, it could risk generalizing poor populations and further displacing people. And social mix initiatives, while they seem motivated by equity, sometimes there's the economic factors that are driving these opportunities, kind of like there's a conflict there. And so I'm curious, for those who are tuning in, if you can help us understand kind of like how Boston is not going to fall to that, you know, putting people who are already poor in further harm, and what, if any, thinking have you had around making it more on the affordable end and less on the social mixed income end, right? So that if we're really serious about meeting the moment around creating more housing, particularly for those who can't afford to live here in the city of Boston, how are you looking at distributing the mixed use?
Yeah, so I can say a couple of things about that, and thanks for the question, because I think this is a really important point. I actually think that social housing, like, is actually about pushing back against a neoliberal public-private development frame that we've lived with for a while. So I mentioned before that the BHA, right, has had a series of redevelopments. So I think one that people here probably know is like in Mission Hill, right? Mission Main used to be those traditional like brick public housing buildings, and we turned it into townhouses. So it used to look like Alice Taylor right now, and it looks like these wooden townhouses. They're really nice. Our folks who live there like them. They're, I think, a third of the number of units that we had before the redevelopment, right? So we lost a lot of total deeply affordable housing when we did that. And there were a bunch of projects like that. And the reason was because the housing was really distressed. There really needed to be investment. But critically, there was this concept that the public.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, should we say goodbye to our group?
Before y'all go, just want to say hello. Bye, and thank you so much for being here. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you, guys.
This is called an intermission.
Yes.
So that we can fully, make sure we're here for it.
Well, I think it's a very good reminder while these folks are headed out that we do housing for people. Like, the goal is for our families to be able to stay in the city and our kids to be able to grow up in the city. So.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
They had asked me. I hope it wasn't boring. They had asked me, are the meetings boring? And I said, no, they're very interesting.
It might be interesting. It might not be interesting for 5 years. These kids.
I know. Well, while they file out, I'll just take a a moment of personal privilege to say that when I first met Councillor Santana, he told me a story about the time when in 8th grade he first got to come into the city council chamber and go into a councillor's office, and now he works in one. And so I'm sure one of the kids who came in just now is going to end up in one of your all's offices someday. So it's a nice thing to think about.
Yeah, they'll be welcomed.
Yes. So, Councillor Mejia, back to your question. So the point is, for a long time...
And just so because you know my audience, right? So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure, like, what I'm really trying to get at is that there is a criticism around how this could have unintended consequences on poor people, right? So if you could really help us demystify that. And I also want to make sure that we're targeting and talking about the fact that when we think about the busing era, there was a lot of, like, drama. They didn't want us to be integrated, right? And so as we're thinking about this, what does that look like in a way that doesn't further harm poor people?
Yeah. So I think basically what I would say is that for a long time, there was the conception that the only way that government would give money to house really poor people anymore after we stopped building new public housing was if it went private. So all those Hope 6 deals, all these, like, even choice neighborhoods that came out in the Obama administration where it was at least 1-for-1 replacement of units, the concept has basically been get the public side out of housing, put it on the private side, right? And listen, we have some great private nonprofit partners who are some of the owners of those, and this is not knocking them, but there was this idea, right, that like the public can't do this. What we have actually found is that people, and especially low-income people, they want the public involved. So even with those private developments, we have our tenant leaders still coming back to the BHA, wanting to maintain relationships, and also, frankly, wanting the public side to help hold the private side accountable, so that if, for instance, they're living in converted public housing, and then their rights as tenants start getting trampled, that they've got some recourse, and they come back to us. So I feel like what we've learned in this history is that, like, for us to safeguard the rights of people and low-income people and really keep their place in the city, the public's got to be the, like, ultimate owner and the ultimate, like, entity that's guaranteeing that, because we just can't count on a private entity to guarantee that. And that's what I mean when I say the framework's actually been pretty neoliberal historically. And this is really a swing back to saying, hey, if we're going to build mixed income housing, actually it should be publicly owned, because that way we can make sure that the lower income folks don't get, like, you know, there's lower income units in the buildings, but then folks get evicted because of like some kind of arbitrary rules, right? Or like something that kind of squeezes them out, which is I think what you're talking about, right? Is that fear that like it'll look good, but then people get pushed out. And what we see is that kind of stuff is a lot more likely to happen with private control and with private equity owning a stake in the buildings, because fundamentally their interest is just in making a buck, right? And so that's actually where we think that the public stake can actually be better for people. So I see this as answering that concern. I also would say, though, that social housing in Boston, I mean, it's going to look different any place. We in Boston, if we did something like this, would have much deeper affordability than, for instance, than they do in Montgomery in some of the buildings. So we would include Faircloth units, which are deeply, deeply affordable public housing units, as our affordable units. That's not something they're currently doing in their buildings. So I think Paul mentioned they're more likely to do like 50% AMI type units as the affordable ones. I think we're a different context, and certainly anything that gets developed on BHA land, the goal is for us to house the people we house now and more people off of our wait list, right? That's like our objective. But I think one of the things, Councillor Mejia, that we don't want to do is we don't want to pit all the different levels of income against each other in this fight for housing. Because one of the things I see at BHA is that, and Councillor Santana actually noted this in his opening remarks, we see folks at BHA who start to make more money, feel stuck, and not have like an option to move out of public housing, because they used to be able to make a little more money and then maybe afford a down payment or afford rental in the private market from kind of like cheaper housing that was available. And now all those options are gone. And so our turnover rates have dropped to like really low single digits. And I think our families don't like the feeling of, well, if I make too much money, then I might get forced out of the city altogether because I can't stay in Boston without living in BHA housing. Like, so we're also interested, right, for those folks to have room to grow. There needs to be some publicly supported middle income housing so that we rebuild every really like step of the ladder.
Thank you. Councillor Coletta?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations to you on this committee. This is the first time that I'm coming to a housing committee, so I just want to say congrats and thank you to the co-sponsors for producing this really creative piece of policy. I think to present and be proactive about trying to present solutions rather than talking about all the issues within the city is definitely an approach that you take, so I just want to thank you and the co-sponsor on that. Just in general, though, thank you both for the work that you've done already. Middle mixed income housing is so desperately needed in the city, especially in my community in East Boston, where folks are largely living within the 40% to 80% range, AMI range. And I worked with both of you on a lot of these issues, Sheila with Suffolk Downs, and making sure that we're building a new neighborhood that is truly inclusive of everybody, and that was a lot of work. And so I just want to thank you on that. And then to Administrator Bach with your work in Charlestown and the Bunker Hill housing development. And the good news and what we could look to is that we have a framework of what we could possibly do with Montgomery County. And I want to thank the gentleman who was here who gave a really informative perspective of what has happened in Montgomery. And then also looking to Vienna, it's clear that we have a lot to learn and there's a lot to do here. And what I'm really pleased about this model, or pleased about when it comes to this, is that we don't have to depend on the federal government with the LIHTC, or potentially we don't have to depend on them with that, or HIF funds, and we essentially break free of the constraints and loosen the grip of the private market too. So there is some really, there is a great model here, and so I am very supportive of it. And I guess my question, since we're doing one and then going through, is just understanding what the realistic financing structure could be given the existing resources at our disposal. Like on the public side, what I'm hearing is that we could potentially provide the land, we could provide some money from the city, we could bond or leverage our bonds. Like at what point does like mass housing come into play or mass development? Have there already been conversations when it comes to that? Like, I guess I just need a roadmap of what this housing finance structure might look like. It's not something that I'm in the weeds on every day, and so I know that I have a lot to learn, but just want to know from you all what it could realistically look like so that we have an idea of how we could potentially partner with the state and private forces.
Yeah, so let me say a little bit about this, and then if Sheila has anything to add, and then I think it's also helpful to Paul talk a little bit about what this has looked like in Montgomery and other places. But basically, and I'm going to do this in very rough shorthands, like think about it like about 2/3 of a project, of a big housing development project is covered by a construction loan that you basically get from a bank, right? Where they say, okay, you're going to get to build this, I'll give you the money, and then you're going to pay me back at this interest. Right now, that interest rate has gone up because of the treasury rate going up, but that's the basic thing. And if we do something on public land and there's a meaningful, even if it's mixed income, there's a meaningful, affordable piece of it, then there are certain products that are backed by the federal government. I won't go into the weeds on them, but there are HUD and mass housing loans that are that construction loan, but they basically just have like better terms than you would get otherwise, and they're kind of like, you know, whether it's on payback or the interest rate or just like different things. So typically for projects like this, so 2/3 of our money is being covered that way. And that's what's happening today, by the way. Like when we talk about things like the Charlestown deal, like we would be doing that anyways. So I think a worthwhile thing to note is that in the current model, the equity partner is only putting in that last third, but they're getting all of the value, right? So I think people don't always realize that, but actually like 2/3 is being covered by a loan, which we could go as the public side and get ourselves. Like the equity partner is not what unlocks that, but it's that 1/3 stake that functionally gives you ownership, right? So that's really what you're talking about replacing. And so the idea would be that you would basically come in with public money instead of with private money for that stake. Like I said, that's a lot of money for the public to put into one deal. If you were gonna spend it once and never see it again, it would be way too much money, right, for one deal. But then the thing about construction is that these deals are profiled as very risky before the building exists. And all the interest rates and everything that you pay and the returns you pay to equity on them are based on basically the possibility that there could be like an explosion and your whole thing could just like fall apart, or it could turn out that this place you're building on is actually a swamp, or the whole government could change and they could decide to revoke your permits, right? There's like all these different perceived risks. Once you have a constructed, occupied building, it's called a stabilized asset, the whole profile changes. And that's what Montgomery takes advantage of, is it puts in the government money to cover the equity stake. Instead of paying the returns based on the risk profile, it says, okay, we're gonna cover this and accept a smaller return. But then when it gets to the other side and the building exists, there are private entities that are willing to replace that equity stake in terms of like a mortgage, right? They're able to provide a replacement loan because now they're supporting a stabilized, predictable asset where, because it's occupied, they know how much it's going to pay and they're not worried about all those X factor risks. So basically what you're doing is you're using the public money to get over that hump from very risky to not risky at all, without paying this crazy premium that you pay otherwise for that risk. And I think it makes good sense, in part because some of the risk that the private side is trying to insure against is actually things we control. Like the private side is trying to, they're trying to insure against the city councilor and the mayor decide they hate this project and block it last minute, right? But if it's a project that the city council and the mayor want to see happen, we know that's not going to happen. And so there's this weird situation today where, especially on deals where we do have significant affordability, we're overpaying for a risk premium in the market that's actually fake because we know that we're not going to create that issue, but the market doesn't know that. So I think it's actually a better reflection of value to do it this way. But maybe if Paul wanted to say a few words on this piece.
Paul, would you like to comment? Go ahead.
Yeah. On the question of what do some ideas for financing flows look like for a program like this in Boston? I think that there are a lot of options. I think that, so let's start with the senior debt, the mortgage. So that's what Administrator Bach was just saying is the roughly 2/3 of the total project cost in any deal is the senior mortgage. Most likely, that is going to come from mass housing, and that's a product that mass housing churns out day after day, right? They issue mortgages through their own bonding capacity and also through access to federal programs like FHA loans. So in Montgomery County's case and in Atlanta and in several other places that are exploring this, the program that's used is something called the FHA Risk Share Lending Program. And I won't go into too much detail unless you have really specific questions, which I'm happy to answer. But the FHA Risk Share Lending Program is a HUD mortgage tool that is specifically designed for mixed income multifamily housing. And it has this kind of set of terms that really makes it great for these types of projects. That program it's not used by everyone in the country, but Montgomery County and mass housing is already one of the biggest users of that program in the country for other types of projects that they do. So they're very familiar with it. And I don't want to speak for them, but obviously, they would need to be involved. But I have had plenty of conversations with folks at mass housing, and they're aware that this model exists and have come to some conversations about it to learn more about it. So it's not a brand new thing to them or other housing finance agencies around the country. And then the next piece that you need after you get the mortgage part is your your short-term construction loan from your revolving fund. And so the way the financing works on that in Montgomery County and Atlanta's case is they capitalize this revolving fund, meaning they, think of it as a you're trying to get $50-100 million in a bucket, right? That is your investment fund. The way that they got that $100 million in Montgomery County and $40 million in Atlanta's case was they issued a general obligation taxable bond, right? They didn't need to use their tax exempt cap. They did it with a taxable bond. You could do it with taxable or tax exempt, depending on, what you want to do. And so for $100 million for a 20-year bond, that means that the county is paying $6.5–7 million a year in principal and interest, which is, for them, their annual budget is in the billions. $6 million a year is not a huge chunk of change to them. And so they're happy to cover that. But the nice thing is, in Montgomery County's case, when they make loans into their projects for that construction period, they charge themselves interest, of course, right? They, not zero, they charge themselves 3, 4, 5, 6%, somewhere in that range, right? Compared to private equity investors who want 15, 16, 17% rate of return. And the interest payments that they pay to themselves from their projects get returned to that original bond issuance to capitalize the fund, right? So the outcome of that is gross, the county's paying $6–7 million a year, but on net, they're only paying like $1 or $2 million a year, because the interest payments from the projects cover like 80% of the bond payments every year. And then you start to think about the kind of leverage, how much investment is actually occurring as a result of this. And in Montgomery County's case, their kind of current estimates are for $1 to $2 million per year from the county net. They will build $2 billion worth of mixed income housing over 20 years, which is, turns that quite, that $1 to $2 million, it's like you'd be kind of crazy not to do it, right? Because of the way that the financing is structured, you're just getting so much mixed income housing out of a tool like this. It's so powerful in that way. And so then the last piece is when you get to the stabilized product that Administrator Bach was mentioning, right? You get through the construction period, and then you get to stabilized. That's when you revolve your revolving fund investment back into your bucket so that you can have it ready to go to another project the next day. And you replace, when you pull it out, you create a little gap in the total cost of your project, and you need to fill that with something. In Montgomery County's case, they have a number of kind of mezzanine debt lenders in the area, some of them who are kind of mission-oriented, right? Like maybe a CDFI or a bank who has CRA requirements that they want to meet or things like that. One thing that my organization is working on is trying to identify larger investors like pension funds who might want to create a kind of programmatic approach for that longer term mezzanine debt. So, and that money is available, but we're hoping to create an even more, kind of national scope programmatic way to get that last piece of capital that would be needed for these projects.
Thank you.
Happy to go into more detail on any of those pieces if you have any more specific questions, but that covers the gist.
Thank you. I think we really need a big a whiteboard with some visuals here. It's hard to follow and complex.
I have slides that I could help, but.
Very good. Next up is Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Administrator Bach, Chief Dillon, for being here. I've had a brief lesson on how this works just yesterday, so I want to make sure I just to follow with some clarifying questions. Are we looking for this type of financing that you talk about, right? I understand that we're not getting the rate of return from the REITs and other folks, right? And we're not just doing the grant money that's giving the money out the door. This is filling that middle gap where we put money in and we actually get some back to create this revolving loan fund. Are we looking at partnering with, are we looking at only ground up? And I think it might have been answered from Councilor Coletta's questions as well, so you guys might have just touched on this, but is it only city-owned property ground up, or is this also partnering with a private developer to say, hey, we could fill that chunk of your financing deck and for you to put forward the private part, right? There is this relationship with private developers as well. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, so what's interesting is you could, with the revolving fund, so I think you could do projects on public land, right, on our stuff,
Yep.
But you could also just basically, by putting the equity in, buy what are currently private projects. And that's what in Montgomery they did. Paul was referring to, a few of the private developers who had permitted projects were basically like, my equity partners have all taken their balls and gone home.
Yep.
County, do you want to be my equity partner? So what they're doing is they're giving up control to the public side, right? It's now a Montgomery County owned project. But from the developer's perspective, sitting there with a permitted thing, they want to make it happen. So they're like, hey, sure.
So are we looking at the projects that come in now? Is it just seeing like, are we looking ahead to seeing, okay, what projects are coming down the pipeline? Or is it sort of ad hoc about where we get to invest and choose? Or do we have areas that we're trying to say, we want development to occur, we're trying to spur it here so we can add this financing in? Or is it just saying, okay, what are the couple projects that came in this week and let's look at them all and see if any of them fit the criteria?
So I think, first of all, right now we're not really in a position to look, because we got to have you got to have the money, right, to be the first.
Well, I guess, if we were to implement
if we did this, I think what you would want is and this gets a little bit back to Councillor Mejia's question, you'd want to have a strategic plan from the city side of what we were trying to achieve on the public side, and so that you might grab an opportunity to buy something from the private side, but you'd want to make sure that it was what you actually wanted, right? Not just like because some private guy is in trouble, he's like, hey, can I sell this to you? Right. But I do think that you'd probably, one of the things if we had this money, one of the things that we could be doing, which we can't really do right now, is we could look at those 20,000 permitted units that aren't getting built, and we could be in a position to say, oh, we really want more affordable housing in this part of the city, and look, there's a permitted deal, but they're not going to build it on the private side. Let's just take that, right? Let's just buy it and let's build it, right? So I think I think if you had the revolving fund, you would want to have a kind of norm of being very aware of what the pipeline was of things that had gotten permitted.
Thank you. So aside from these 20,000 units that are left unbuilt at the moment, if there is a decline in development, then of course the options dwindle, right? I mean, the program, it's tied to the amount that can occur.
But the nice thing is, because you can just say, now I'm going to do something on public land, you're not, obviously you would need to get permitting for the thing on public land, but you're not hostage to the private side's sort of decision making as much as you are otherwise.
So I guess in that, my final sort of comment or question is in this financing, because we were just at an event, some of us, where they talked about the financing cycles as we know it may have changed post-COVID, right? And it's not like, we're just in it, and it's at the infrastructure itself of where we exist. It's sort of this new frontier of how things go forward. Is this financing tied to the traditional cycles, or is this something that we can, like in finance, in banking cycles or economy cycles, right, where we might go, okay, we can do this, we can't throughout the years, or is there something more? If there is this fundamental change, does this also fit in nicely with whatever the future of that economic outlook is.
Yeah, so I think that's exactly what we think, is that this helps smooth that boom bust cycle. It's basically counter-cyclical, because if you think about it like this, right now, where you've got all these private deals on the sidelines because they can't get financed privately, they actually, right, are therefore more interested in giving themselves up to a public financed alternative, right? So there's a kind of counter-cyclical aspect, and if the private side was producing tons of housing, then we'd probably only have the public sites to look at doing this at, right? Like, so that would be kind of but the thing is, like, from our perspective, if that were the situation, that'd be great, right? Because you'd have the private side, its engine would be working. So I think, yeah, that's the theory, is that, and I said this a little bit earlier, like, it's just, if you think of housing as this just absolutely critical thing that people need in order to stay in the city, then at some point, those of us who are policymakers and responsible for representing the people of the city and serving them just don't want to be held hostage on this, like, completely essential aspect of life in the city of Boston to a boom bust market cycle, right? Like, it's just a bad place to be from a policy perspective.
No, understand. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Will we take some public comment, or do you want to come back to you? Yeah. I'll just pause, and we'll have some public comment. I know that Michael's here from the HUD Tenants Association. Would you like to come down, Michael? There's my list.
Okay, thank you.
And given that you are an expert in the housing field, I'll allow you like 5 minutes to...
Wow.
Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your having me with this opportunity. My name is Michael Kane. I'm the director of the Mass Alliance of HUD Tenants. We've been organizing tenants in expiring use, subsidized housing to save their homes as permanently affordable for the last 40 years. We added it up. It's 13,500 units statewide, about 8,500 in Boston, including 1,400 in 8 resident-owned developments, which are permanently outside of the market as a permanently affordable housing. In my prior life, I was involved in the tent city struggle. It was a 13-year struggle to get tent city built, and I was chair of the board during the construction period. Sheila was on our board at that time. So there's some lessons learned about that. We were intentionally building socially owned housing on publicly owned land. It was a BRA land parcel. And the BRA was very creative and supportive and split the ownership of the site so that they have a ground lease for 99 years for the land. Tent City, as a nonprofit, got a 99-year lease to build affordable housing above it, and then the Copley Place developers were able to build a garage for themselves, mostly underneath that. So that was one model. There was a similar one called Senhai, the South End Neighborhood Housing Initiative, a few years later when the BRA had a number of land parcels that were left under urban renewal. And we got a commitment from the BRA at that time that it would be 1/3 low income for people less than 50% of the median, 1/3 moderate for people in the 50 to 80% range, and 1/3 market, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And that was a successful program that built about 330 apartments on 7 sites. So those are 2 examples. We did it here. We can do it again. We could build 100 tent cities if there's the will and the political support from the city. To speak to the legislation today, it's a very exciting proposal. We really want to commend Councilor Santana for filing it and all of you for supporting it. But it's a necessary but not sufficient element to really make affordable mixed income housing work outside of the market. It's the other elements that we learned here are public ownership of the land, whenever possible, or to target that land whenever possible for social housing. Public financing, which is what the revolving loan fund would do. And ownership sponsorship should be public ownership, public entities such as the BHA, nonprofit CDCs, a very robust network in Boston, land trusts, or resident-owned co-ops, like some of the ones that we developed. So the principle of public ownership is another element. In Tent City, we skewed the rents. That was an element which I think is implicit in the public financing model, where you would use some of the market rents to subsidize the moderate income rents. The gap between operating costs and construction costs that are built into the project that you get from the market rents, that excess rent, could be used to internally subsidize rents. That was a principle at Tent City. I can answer questions about how that was structured, but that is one element. It's also what Vienna is doing now. I visited Vienna twice in the last few years and met with officials there and community groups. And in Vienna, it's now a one-third, one-third, one-third model. And the one-third market, they call them co-op units, but they sell off call-up developments, but they sell off the market or use the market to subsidize the co-op. So they're using that in the last several years as a model going forward. So I said it was a necessary but insufficient. The other elements that should be worked in are a set aside for targeted income groups so that you really meet the need of people in the city. And the city's report shows 22,000 units that are needed for extremely low-income people by 2030. Those are people that will be homeless if they're not built. So how do you get there? Well, this social housing model wouldn't quite do that. You need to have an operating subsidy worked into it as well. I don't think there's any way around that. I just did an article for ORMA on Mike Connolly's bill and pointed out that his legislation, which is almost identical to this, would require a subsidy, either Section 8 or the Fair Cloth subsidy would be great, or MRVP, or the city's own rent subsidy program, some combination, so that extremely low-income people can live in these mixed-income developments. Otherwise, you're really building market and moderate income, maybe workforce housing, which is great at one level, but it's not enough to meet the needs of the city. So, did I do that in 5 minutes?
Thank you. You're just coming up on your 5 minutes.
Wow, that's the first.
Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for all your work.
I can answer any questions afterwards about Tent City and the Senhai program, which I have.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I'm going to go back to the lead sponsor, Councillor Santana, for more questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Continue on, let me see. Chief Dillon, the administration and the council have supported adopting a rent stabilization program, but it will require enabling legislation to implement for most cases. Public ownership of units has enabled the Montgomery County HOC to cap rent increases and inflation for their tenants, including even for market rate tenants. If we had more publicly owned housing here in Boston, would we need to have a law in place to stabilize rents, or could we have a policy in place like HOC just to cap the rent increases?
Okay. So I think what's very, very interesting about this model, it's something that Administrator Bach said earlier, that if we were able to develop a lot of, I'm excited because we need additional housing. I'm also excited because if we were able to do this and own mixed income developments, they're publicly owned, they really could be a laboratory for our best thinking on policy that we haven't been able to advance at the State House. You know, I'm sitting here and I jotted down the wish list, right? Just cause evictions, which we've all wanted for so long, rent stabilization, throw in right to counsel, right? So anytime this public entity wants to evict, we make sure that someone's got legal representation. It really could be the petri dish for everything that we want. It could be the ideal, like, housing universe, if you will. So while we toil and try to get really, and we need to do that, continued legislation passed at the State House, we really could start developing best practices using this portfolio of properties as a prime example about how to do housing and how to do it right.
That's really great. No, thank you. And I hope we can be a model for that here in Boston. Going back to, do I have?
I'll come back and I'll go back to you then. So we have a lot of housing units that have been approved for, and they're sitting there. I have projects in my district that have been sitting there for 10 years. I know I've talked to Chief Jamison about, like, hang on a minute, we permit something, you can't just sit on it for 10 years. Let's move this along a little, but how do you see us intervening in a situation where a project's just sitting there, and is there a pathway to intervene in that situation and get it moving?
Yeah, I mean, if we had a social housing revolving fund, then if we saw that happening, we would have the opportunity to think, this is to Councillor Fitzgerald's question earlier, like we could say, oh, that's a place where, the city was really counting on that residential development happening. There was a lot of community support for it because we need more housing there. It's not happening. Hey, like, Mr. Developer, we'd like to just take that off your hands, right, and make that happen. And so that's the case of, if you see the New York Times article that was written about Montgomery, the project that's featured there that has the pool and everything, which I visited in November, and it really is that beautiful. It was exactly this situation. It was originally a private development that had gotten permitted and just wasn't going anywhere. And so when the developer, basically partnered up with HOC to be the partner, they were able to build those units that were sitting on the sidelines. But they changed the affordability profile, like Paul was talking about before, so that more of the units became affordable.
If I could just add to that too, developers are calling, I wouldn't say every week, but certainly every month, with a development that they can no longer make the numbers work on, and wondering if, if we have an interested, or if they know of a nonprofit or for-profit who does development, affordable housing development, whether they're interested in selling. And two, whether or not they could get additional affordable housing resources to start making the numbers work and swap out some of their equity needs. So there really is a market right now. It's not all of those 20,000 units, but I would say, there's a healthy percentage of developers that are really looking for solutions. So the time, I think, is right.
And it's a weird thing that right now it's actually easier. If you can get the affordable resources, it is easier to build affordable housing in this moment than it is to build market rate housing because of the interest rate environment, which is bizarre and counterintuitive, but really points to the sort of counter-cyclical nature of what this could be.
So you mentioned earlier that, that we don't need to go to the legislature to get, this doesn't have to be a home rule petition. What do we have to do to make this happen?
Well, we would have to create a revolving fund, which would involve an appropriation. And as Paul said, that appropriation could be like what Montgomery did, where they issued bonds. So they issued bonds to create it. Or if you had a bunch of money, you could just put a bunch of money in. And I should say, even though it doesn't involve action in the legislature, certainly we are watching very closely. The current housing bond bill has both a social housing pilot language that was proposed by Rep. Connolly but included in the governor's proposal, and a momentum fund that would be held by Mass Housing. The momentum fund, I think no one knows exactly what it would turn into because it hasn't been authorized yet. It could be just a way of making it possible for the private side to get some of these stuck development deals unstuck on the housing side, which would be a good thing to do, but it wouldn't involve flipping to public ownership in this way. But there is the possibility that it could be something like this, or that it could combine with the social housing piece to be something like this. So I would say, we're interested. There's the city side, thinking about what an appropriation would look like, but there's also the state side, and there could even be some kind of combo, hey, let's go in on this together approach between the city and state.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Santana?
If I could add one quick thing
Go ahead.
on on the question of how to kind of operationalize the taking stalled deals and bringing them to completion, just to give some kind of context of how it actually happened in Montgomery County's case, what actually happened was Zach Marks, who's the chief real estate officer at the Public Housing Authority in Montgomery County, he sent an email to his planning department and said, can you give me a list of projects in the county that have been permitted and entitled but have not begun construction? And they sent him that list. That is to him, that is the list of deals that are unable to secure financing, right? They went through every process but haven't started construction because they can't get financing. And he just kind of looked through those projects and identified ones that looked like they were in a good area where he might be interested in turning them into these kind of mixed income public developments. And he just reached out to the development partners and essentially made a pitch, right, of, hey, what if I did this instead? So there's a lot of ways to kind of build a pipeline like that, and it's really not all that complicated. And a lot of these, as we just heard, a lot of these developers are in fact reaching out to the city, right, and saying, hey, I'm stuck, can you help me? And so when you have a tool like this kind of ready to go, then you can start to help those projects. And one other thing I'll say is when you have a lot of projects who are reaching out to you because there's a lot of stalled deals for one reason or another, then you have the opportunity to be selective, right? You can look at all sorts of deals and say, this one is actually a lot better. It's in this location that I really want to serve, or I'll be able to meet these other specific needs I want to do with this particular project. And so, you can really be really kind of a participant in the housing market and shape it in a direction that you want as a kind of conscious policy decision, which is really kind of a powerful tool.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Levijan?
Thank you, Chair Braden. I sort of have a question that kind of connects to Councillor Mejia's question regarding social housing as a concept. Is it dependent on it being a mixed income, on the mixed income model? And is it because you do want some rate of return, even if it isn't like the rate of profitability that you would get on them that, the REITs are looking for example?
So I would say, in a sense, no, because like what I said in my opening remarks is that public housing is a form of social housing, right? It's a form of government owned, right? And in fact, if we just had a lot more public housing, we would be able to provide housing to not just the extremely low income folks that BHA focuses on because we have such a limited inventory. We could, if we had tons of public housing units, we would house everybody in the extremely low, middle income brackets, right? Because our public housing eligibility goes all the way up to 80% of AMI. But what we see is that we've got this, we're controlling 10,000 units and we've got 42,000 families on the wait list. And so the focus is very much on housing folks out of homelessness and the extremely low income. Because we know that that's what only we can do, right? That the market's just not getting there. And so to Michael's point, that's really that's our focus, our mission driven focus. But of course, if the federal government took an approach at the federal level that was similar to what Singapore does and just said, hey, we just want to secure housing for people so that they can live their lives and flourish. And, from a Singaporean perspective, it's resulted in a lot of economic benefit because everybody is just able to do all these things, start businesses, be entrepreneurial without worrying about losing their housing, right? Yeah. So if we had a federal government that took that approach, then local jurisdictions like ours, even the state, wouldn't need to think about how do we generate housing production, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is the city of Boston doesn't have the money to just, triple the number of BHA units. We are making a real commitment to putting resources into figuring out how to create these 3,000 additional units that we can under the fair cloth limit. And that, if we do that in the next 10 years, that'll be, the most significant commitment for this city to new social housing, but public housing, right, in a generation, right? So I think, like, from my perspective, it's like,
is it inclusive when you think about social housing? It's inclusive of that.
It's inclusive of that,
Okay.
but but I think that, but the thing we should recognize is that just building the deeply affordable stuff, it doesn't revolve money back, right? So we just have to know that. So it's like that we're going to spend money on doing. The benefit of the mixed income model is twofold. One is providing, yes, housing at all these different ladder levels. The other is revolving back. And Michael referred to it earlier, right? Even in Tent City, you're taking like the market rents to cross-subsidize the co-op units. And that is gonna be, that's always gonna be the push-pull. So for instance, like I also really like this idea of what Montgomery does of having like rent stabilization even for the market units, just because you're saying, hey, people don't need to live in fear of like their rent going up 25%, like no matter how much they make, like that's a crazy thing. The flip side is if you're using the market units to cross-subsidize the low and middle ones, then you can't let the market units plateau too flat or go down, because then them as an engine of providing the others will reduce. So you just have to be really clear-eyed about the choices you're making. And I think like if we had infinite resources to hand, I would just say, let's just build housing for all Bostonians, starting with the lowest income ones and just work our way up, right? That's where like the public housing authority is always going to come from. Like we just think we should house the most vulnerable people first, the whole way up. But if I can create 5 times the amount of housing by having capital that revolves, then in the long run I can actually help more of the low income people by doing that. So that's kind of the trade-off that we have to think about.
Okay, do I have no.
I'm going
Okay.
to
I do like the model that you're using. I like it, so.
Councillor Mejia, you're next. Do you have another question?
Thank you. I'm curious, who would be the landlord? You guys?
So I think we would want it to be the housing authority, because I think that, and that doesn't mean that we couldn't. So what Montgomery does is they're the landlord, but they hire a property management company to run the day-to-day, and you could do that. Like it wouldn't need to be our property management company, because it all depends. If you had more money, if we had the kind of money that you get from market housing, we could fund a better property management company, so it could all work. But the key thing is who's the owner, right? So I think it would be important for it to be the public entity, and the housing authority is set up to be an owner of residential units, which for instance the city is not set up to do. So there's like a bunch of regulatory things that's hard for the city of Boston to own housing, but easy for us to own housing, even if it was market.
So that brings me to my next question. That's why I asked, only one question?
Only one question.
Why? I felt like other people have one. Watch the tape, y'all.
I'm going to I'll come right back to you, Councillor Mejia. I'm trying to give everybody a fair chance. Councillor Coletta's gone. Councillor Fitzgerald, did you have any further questions? Please. Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald.
We talk about the appropriation of money needed, right, to kick this thing off. Given that we potentially have to tighten the belt in the future years, how much money are we talking, and do we have enough to support it while also providing all the other services people are intending us to provide?
Yeah, so I think you heard from Paul about the scale that other places have done. So Atlanta's put 40 into their initial thing. Montgomery's put 50 in initially and then now doubled it to 100. I think that for these deals, you kind of need to be in that, like I would say in Boston, Atlanta's cheaper than Boston, right? So you probably need to be, to like do a substantial first deal, you probably have to be in that like 60 mil like range roughly. But the question of how you finance it, so if you have a chunk of money to put in that and the nice thing about this is it's not like an operating year on year, right? So if you say, if right now I have a chunk of money that I can put in, you could just put that money in. If you don't have a chunk of money, then you can do what Paul talked about, where the Montgomery folks have bonded for it. So they've capitalized that, right, and generated up front, but they're actually paying for it at $1 million to $2 million a year for like a long period of time. So it kind of depends. I don't want to, I feel like, ask me again once you guys have had the budget presentation and the CFO has been in to talk about overall stuff, because I don't want to move into that lane. But yeah, I think that's the gist of it.
No, thank you. I have a follow-up question. I'll get in my next round. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to come back around to Councillor Santana.
Great. Thank you. Just following up on Councillor Fitzgerald's question, does using mixed income units help to make the financing make more sense because it revolves back
Yeah.
income? Could we do this by setting up aside money initially and then not needing to keep appropriating more money later down the line?
Yeah, that's exactly the idea, is that the money keeps coming back into the revolving fund, and also doesn't just come back, but also generates, right? So I think, like, Paul, is it fair to say in Montgomery, it's not just that the money's come back to them, but they're actually making a return on it.
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces to that. I'll try to answer real quickly. But so when they have their bucket with $100 million in it, it's the revolving loan fund, and they make a loan from that bucket into an individual project that they're building. On that loan, they pay themselves back 5% interest. The money they're paying themselves back covers the bond payments for the bond they issued a couple of years ago, right? They have to pay that bond every year. The interest they charge themselves covers most of that bond payment. Where they make return is not on the loans themselves into the projects, but because they're the owner, the Public Housing Authority is the owner of the project, and it has this mix of incomes in the building, they make operating income just on running and owning that building. And that is what allows them to build equity in their portfolio. And just to give a quick example of why that's valuable for a Public Housing Authority, Montgomery County just did a project where there's another brand new building, Class A building with like a spa and a pool and everything. And they have 100 former public housing seniors who are living in that building. The HUD money was not enough to cover the cost of putting those up for those very affordable, extremely low income rents. The way they were able to pay for it is there was another mixed income property that they owned next door that they had paid the mortgage down on for 15 years. Well, they refinanced that and pulled equity out of that other building that they owned and put it into this new building, right? So if you have a portfolio, if you have buildings that you own and paying the mortgage on, you're building equity, you can use that equity to reinvest elsewhere in your portfolio, which is that's kind of the medium to longer term, really significant benefit to housing authorities that of owning the mixed income assets. Yeah. So there's multiple kind of places where you're generating value for your housing authority that you can use for more affordability elsewhere.
If I could just add one quick thing too, I think it's been stated, but it's worth probably emphasizing here at this point. Like, the nice thing about this model is not lining up for other resources, right? So we've got pipelines that go out for years where I don't even know after ARPA how we're going to actually even keep those wonderful projects moving forward. They need credits, they need soft debt, they need gap filler. And so this is a sort of a separate model that, with an infusion of low-cost capital from the city, wouldn't, in theory, have to compete for those resources unless we wanted to, unless we thought, a particular deal needed a little something or wanted to emphasize a certain or serve a certain population, et cetera. That's what I'm excited about. Yeah. It's not competing for all of our other resources.
Yeah, totally agree. I think a way to think about that for counselors is that, like, the state has roughly $800 million in housing LIHTC a year, which are these tax credits, right, that help us produce affordable housing. And I think a really painful thing about the ecosystem right now, the affordable ecosystem, is that we have these celebrations about projects that have gotten awards, right? Like they got this tax credit awards. But the truth is all those projects are just getting awards out of this existing pie. So if it hadn't gone to this project, it would have gone to this other project that's actually now in the line, didn't get it funded this year, so is waiting for next year, or at this point, probably 2 years from now, like we kind of have like a 3-year backup in projects. So what's tough is, it's amazing that the state puts as much resources we do, and that we have so many nonprofit developers and for-profits too, and the public side, like investing in housing production. But there's this dynamic where we're all competing for the same pool of resources that are available federally. And so being able to create like, hey, here's a set of deals that aren't waiting on that. Plus, when you wait on that, when you wait for 3 years for tax credits, your costs escalate in the meantime. So you can get in this trap where you finally got tax credits, but now you have to repencil all the numbers, and your contractors are all like, yeah, that'll be 25% more, right? And you're like, shoot, that isn't what I calculated for. So time is money in this. And if we could have a tranche of projects that could just move, like Montgomery County does a bunch of LIHTC projects, but they're not the projects that they're doing with the revolving fund. Yeah. So they just have two parallel streams.
I know that Chief Dillon has a hard stop. Thank you so much for being here, and I think we'll continue this conversation. This is exciting.
Thank you.
And lots of potential here that we need to keep exploring and seeing if we can make it happen. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'll stay.
And where was I? Councillor Louis-Jean.
Thank you. Sheila, I'd love it if, sorry, Chief Dillon, I love it if you could just listen as you walk out. One of the things that I think could be really helpful that I've just been thinking about is if the city or either the Office of Housing or maybe it's us, someone create the sense of this is who we have in the city of Boston. For people who are at 30% AMI, this is what our vision is for what housing should be available to them. Those who are at 20%, those who are at 50%. Does that mean that you are, depending on the amount of money that you have, that we are putting you on there's a pathway to home ownership, or are you applying for IDP units? This is what our vision is, because we know at 50% AMI, the market isn't going to be there for you. The market is not even there for those who are at 100% AMI. So I love that. I love that visualization. Yeah. Of people at the different AMI levels. I think in part when we talk about IDP, part of the pressure on IDP is for it to be for everyone, and it was created really for working professionals. So the idea that we have all of these housing needs for all of these different AMI, all these different people at different AMI percentages, I would love to see a visualization of even this idea that I support, and I think that we should be leaning into our bonding authority. Who are we imagining it for? And then for us to really think about where is the need. I think that visualization could help us, at the very least, where's the need. Maybe we know this, but I think it could help the public. I think it could help us. I think it could help our institutions. We're trying to advocate for more student housing, why that need is there. That's just something that I would really love to see. Maybe a partnership with the BHA, Mayor's Office of Housing, to really just help us understand. Because everyone's always like, oh, it's affordable, but not for me. But what are we trying to do? The naturally occurring affordable housing. That's for folks, we think about that for folks who are at the 60% AMI or 80% AMI. If we're talking about very low, 0% AMI, 0%, where are you, right? Is that BHA housing? And I just think that could be helpful for us. It could just be helpful for policy making. So that's not a question, it's an idea that I just wanted to put out.
We can do this. We have the data. We know what we have. We know what we're trying to create. We know what the need is. So we can pull those pieces together.
I would love to see that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Dillon. Councillor Mejia, you had another question, I believe.
I do. Thank you, Chair. So again, thank you, Sheila. You guys are my hero. Thank you. And I don't give a lot of compliments, so you better take that. All right, so I want to go back to, I'm just curious about, so if you are the landlord, then I'm going to assume that whatever profits we make, you all are the ones who are managing those profits, right? And if there's an opportunity to sell, Would you? No. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I think
that you don't have.
Yeah, we won't make that your question.
I'm not going to make that my question. But I am going to make something else my question, is that we filed a hearing order around workforce development housing for municipal employees, right? And yes, everyone needs affordable housing. We have Boston residents, but we also have a large number of municipal employees who can benefit from this conversation. And so I'm curious, what would affordable housing, public housing look like for public employees who are not meeting the financial thresholds to stay here?
Yeah, so I actually think that's one of the big benefits with this model when we were talking about that kind of like middle income tranche, right? And the idea that, you know, certainly if we were doing that on public land and if it was with city money, I think that there would be ways to have a preference for, you know, folks who are working for public entities. I think you'd have to, you'd have to make sure it was aligned with fair housing rules, right? Like all kinds of things. But I think that you, because it would be like city money, right? There's a way to kind of be like, hey, we're trying to help make sure that that we can keep like teachers and folks who are just all public works, all these jobs where we have a residency requirement in one of the most expensive cities in America, right? That there's like a critical need there, and I think there'd be a really good opportunity for that. Absolutely, I think anything that gets developed like this under the BHA's umbrella, we're going to have a very clear, like, long-term covenant on, right, keeping to be housing and not selling. That's not kind of our line of work. And I will say the other thing is that, you know, and this was alluded to by Paul, but it's worth saying that one of the benefits of doing this type of thing under the Housing Authority umbrella is that some of the profits that you get out of it, you can put into the pure public housing that needs investment, where you're not getting investment from the federal government, right? So that's part of what they've been able to do in Montgomery, is when they have those really low-income seniors who are in public housing and the feds are just giving you pennies on the dollar for what you need, they've got some of their own money.
And this is something that you will envision across the city, not just in certain parts of the neighborhoods. Like, we would see this across all, right? Not just Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan.
And in fact, for the Faircloth units, HUD has a requirement related to affirmatively furthering fair housing that we aim to put the majority of those, and not just aim, that we actually do put the majority of any new units we create in neighborhoods of the city that don't already have most of the public housing. So there's actually a legal requirement on us, which I think is great, because we would love to have it in more neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Councillor Santana? Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. You're out of
my
left
way.
field there.
Yeah, it's a tough seat.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Administrator, for sticking around. I'm trying to think of which question to go with here. So we talk about the price of taking developments off of permanent projects off of developers' hands. Are we able to compete with any other private developer? Why would they sell to us rather than to somebody else that might be able to outbid or pay more? Or granted, they're probably, and they push it, we can't do it, we don't think anyone else can too, right? So I mean, I understand that portion. But can we compete in taking some of those projects off to actually get them going?
Yeah, so because we don't need the same level of return, we should actually be able to offer a more competitive price. Now, and actually, I think Paul was sort of alluding to this, but you can also create a kind of reverse competition where you say, I have a revolving fund, but I'm only investing it, I'm only buying the project that gives us, the public side, the best deal, right? Because the thing you wouldn't want is you wouldn't want to buy from private developers at inflated prices because you were the city, right? So you'd actually want to create a bit of a competition between folks looking for the resource. So I think, look, if somebody got a private development permitted in our old zero interest rate environment, and they could make a ton of money on the private equity side, like, yeah, they're not going to come to us looking for that opportunity. But then but the nice thing is, like, we're not out of luck because we have public land, right? Which isn't what a normal private investor, if they can't buy any of the stuff on the market, they can't develop anything. But we're not in that situation.
Yep.
But But right now, in this situation, we can actually create people bidding for our money. Like they're like, hey, I want to make this happen. Because the thing you have to remember that sometimes gets lost is the developers, very few developers finance their projects, right? So the developers, they make money off of making the project happen. So for them, having higher return equity, it makes the equity partner higher return. It doesn't make them more money.
And that's even include with the other operating subsidiaries that we need. I know. I'm sorry, I forget the person.
Michael.
Michael gave the public testimony. Talking about this other subsidiaries needed for this to happen.
So the other subsidies needed for it to happen are for there to be the deeply, deeply affordable stuff. That's what Michael was talking about. So basically, to achieve the level of affordability that the Alliance of HUD tenants is looking for, you need something else to the table. And that's why I mentioned, I think for us, the Faircloth units are a real engine. Like having 3,000 of those available without needing any further federal action lets us actually do that, as opposed to like waiting for somebody to provide that subsidy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? Councillor Santana? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following up on the question that Council President Lee Jen asked earlier, could we use our bonding authority to finance this? Maybe like set up a pilot fund that we do as a first project. Would that make more sense than thinking of this as a big appropriation as a first step, particularly if we take an approach that revolves funds back and has a return on investment?
Yeah, so yes, we could. It really just depends on the financial profile for the city or the state agency that's looking at funding. Like if the thing that gives like public finance people the most gray hairs is committing to something that's going to be recurring that they don't know that they're going to be able to afford in the future. So the nice thing is that this should not be that scenario. This should either be you have some money one time. That's why this is not our situation, because we've done other great things with our ARPA money, but I know that Paul's group has encouraged folks to look at putting ARPA dollars into revolving funds and such, because it's like, hey, this is one-time money, but you could use it and you could have a long-term benefit, right? So either you have a tranche of one-time money, or you say, oh, it would be affordable for me in my capital program to issue a bond to fund this, and I can see what the interest will pay back, and I can feel comfortable I can do this now. And so I think making the choice between those two options really depends on the specific fiscal situation of your public entity, which, as I said, I'm not going to usurp the role of the CFO and speak to our circumstance. And it would be different for the state and whatever. But I think the basic answer to your question is you could go either of those routes. But certainly the having the really good bond rating and the low rate of borrowing for the city is going to be pretty vital regardless. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up question on that, like in terms of the revolving fund, like is there a timeline for you put money in, invest, and then how long does it take it to come back into your revolving fund so that you can keep the cycle rolling? Yeah, so Montgomery's is operating on a 5-year revolution, which basically, when you fund a project and you close it, the way I think about it is it takes 2 years to build it, and then a year to get it fully occupied, and then another year, because you're staggering when people move in and like when they start paying their rents and everything, and so you're kind of in like year 4 before like the units are all occupied and everybody's paying their rent, and then you can show a bank, here's the cash flow that I'm just making on this building. Yeah. And that's the point where it counts as stabilized. Mm-hmm. And that's the point where you can then get those more conservative investors who are happy to invest in a stabilized asset, but don't want to invest in a risky potential real estate deal. Those folks can replace your money so that your money comes back to your revolving fund. So that's basically why Montgomery operates on a 5-year. And I think part of the reason that they ended up doubling their revolving fund is because they were so excited about how it was working, but they were impatient to do another deal, right? Yeah. And they didn't want to wait for the 5 years. So they were like, let's do another, right? Okay, sounds good. Councillor Mejia?
Thank you, Chair. All right. So I'm curious because I've heard through, multiple constituents that oftentimes when we're looking at mixed housing or units, that the quality of construction or the maintenance or the upkeep of certain units that are lower income brackets usually don't have the same. And I know right now we're just talking about basic, just providing housing for people, but I think that if we're talking, equity, then I'm curious about how you all are thinking about making sure that every single unit is the same, whether you're $100,000 renter or $100 a month renter. Like, how are you grappling with that in terms of cost?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's just something that we just have to make an absolute rule, which is that we're going to build all the units with the same quality regardless. And that's also why it's important, I think, in our model, and this is what we're doing with Charlestown and Mary Ellen, is to have them sprinkled throughout the buildings and say, we're not going to have a part of the building that's the affordable part. We're not going to have poor doors in Boston. We're not going to have, kind of split buildings, because we don't want that. We want the same finishes. We want the same investment. We want the units to be indistinguishable. Honestly, when I visited this building in Montgomery, we went into a bunch of units. You had no way to tell which were the affordable units and which were the non.
Yeah, and that's really comforting to me. I feel like that really gives me a sense of ease, because it already is hard enough to be poor, but then to live in an environment and to know that, yes, you're under the same roof, but there's different strokes for different folks based on what your income bracket is. And I think that is what this is really about, is like not just providing shelter, but doing so with dignity. And I think that is definitely the direction that we want to move in. And the last thing that I'll just share is that, I think it's a really beautiful thing to see right now is that, Councilor Santana was your staffer, right? And here you are now, the administrator of BHA, and it feels like a full circle moment, whereas now you all are able to collaborate, to work collaboratively. It really is, exciting to see, and I'm sure that this is going to be something that we'll see come to fruition, because it has the energy behind it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Mejia.
So, would you, lead sponsor, would you like to have some closing remarks? I'll just give you a minute or two to wrap it, and then I'll close out.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Madam Chair, for scheduling this hearing so quickly, and for sponsoring, and also my other lead sponsor, Council President Louis Jen. I want to thank our panelists again, Administrator Bach, my former boss as well, and Chief Dillon, and Director. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll keep it at that. I'm looking forward to seeing how we can really move here in Boston with the social housing concept. And as I stated before, I think this is one important tool that we can add to our toolbox here in Boston to really address our housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Kenzie, Chief Dillon, and thank you, Executive Director Paul Williams. Thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you to Michael for his contribution. Give us some historical perspective. I'm really excited about this hearing, and I think we've aired and looked at a whole lot of potential solutions this morning, and I hope that we will continue this process and see if we can do something like this in Boston. I'd be really excited to do that. And the notion that there's so much housing that's sitting there that's already ready to go, and it's just sitting there. Let's look at all the potential that we have to really tackle the challenges of providing mixed income social housing for all of our population in Boston. Thank you so much for being here.
Is there any public testimony? Is there anyone else for public testimony?
Administrator Bach.
No, there's no one else. We've checked. There's no one else for public testimony. Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.